All right, I'm closing out the playthrough section of my series on UFO 50 with the final 3 games in the series. Starting off with the first game called Seaside Drive. So Seaside Drive is really interesting. It's an interesting shmup type of game. It's kind of like a side-scrolling type of shmup. The ship is actually just a car that is going along a road. You have the ability to shoot in the horizontal and vertical plane. And the most interesting mechanic in this game is that you can drift, and the drift changes the charge effects of the shot. So essentially, you want to keep that charge all the way up. Otherwise, your shots won't be as powerful as it could be if your charge is all the way up. So you got to be able to drift and then shoot and then kind of coordinate those two things to get the best possible attacks. And so that's the balance. You have to keep up your charge, you have to keep up your drift. You also have to dodge all the incoming enemy fire that comes your way as you're along the road. But I really enjoy this one because it's pretty simple for the most part as far as shmups goes. There's not a whole lot of power-ups. There's not any really power-ups. The power-ups is you just maintaining your charge the whole time by drifting, and you just dodging the enemy attacks and then shooting vertically and horizontally as they're coming forward, in the back of you, and up and down as well. So kind of difficult, to be honest with you, because when I first started playing this, I was like, man, this is hitting me really hard, and there's a lot of enemies, there's a lot of bullet fire being thrusted at me. But you know, you give it a little bit of time, you kind of figure out the rhythm of how you want to go, especially with trying to control all the drifting and also making sure your charge is all the way full. But I really enjoyed Seaside Drive, really fun overall. Like this one, earned a favorite for me. It really wasn't that complicated of a game to begin with, to be honest with you, but I didn't get far in this game because as soon as I completed a level, the next level, which is basically a series of cubes, really took me down pretty fast, and I kept retrying and repeating this game over and over, and it was kind of more difficult than I expected, and so I didn't really get past stage 2. Overall, I think Seaside Drive is fun. I think the idea of turning the shmup idea on its head and using a car instead of like a normal ship, and also kind of doing it more horizontal instead of more vertical as most shmups tend to be. I really like the uniqueness of how this game presents itself, and so I really enjoyed it, and that's why it earns a favorite for me. Now, Campanella has been a staple in this entire series. So there's been 3 games, 4 if you count the Big Bell race, and there's been multiple games that kind of reference Campanella, which is basically the UFO of UFO 50, but this is the follow-up from Campanella 2. So this is Campanella 3. So it's the final entry in the series. Campanella 3 takes a different approach to the whole Campanella series. Just like the other 2 did, they're actually all different of the type of game that they are. The first game, a little bit more standard, but you're using your ship to control and shoot in the direction that you want to go. The second game, which I was very mixed on, because you're not only controlling the pilot, you're also controlling the ship. And kind of different games where you're getting gas and you're landing, and then you drop down and you're getting various materials from your pilot. So I was kind of mixed if you saw that video on Campanella 2. And Campanella 3 takes it to a different level. It's kind of like Space Harrier, where you're kind of enclosed in like this 3-dimensional box, and you're shooting upwards and downs and forwards as enemies are coming towards you. So there's not really a whole much movement to go, even though like the spacing is different, even though that you're adding an extra plane and adding in an extra dimension. There's not a whole lot of movement, which I kind of was not a big fan of, because you're enclosed in the box and you only have this box to move around in, and so you're basically just dodging at different enemy attacks. You're shooting them up, down, forward, left, and right, and kind of dodging them. You don't really have to always shoot enemies. You're really just shooting enemies so they don't like get in your way. Honestly, you're just basically clearing out obstacles. But then you get into a boss fight, and then the boss fight is actually you shooting the boss down, and then you go back into another wave of enemies where they're just going back and forth. They're trying to get past you, you're trying to get past them, and you try to just get to the boss. So that's essentially the level structure of Campanella 3. And I gotta say, even though I like the presentation, I really was not enjoying the lack of movement options that I had. And even though I didn't like the second one as much as I thought I would, I did like the freedom of movement. You were able to explore a lot more of the map than you really ever could. This one seems a lot more linear than I would have expected. So yeah, I wasn't too crazy about this one. In fact, I think when I was writing some notes down for this, I said that I liked 1 to 3 and then 2, and maybe the more I talk about this, I probably would rank all of the Campanella games and not including Big Bell Race because I think Big Bell Race is at the top. But if I were to rank right now all 3 Campanella games, I would go 1, 2, and 3 respectively. So I think 1 is definitely my favorite. In fact, I talked about in that entire video that was my favorite game overall, and then I was pretty mixed on Campanella 2. But this one, the more I thought about it and the more I talked about it, the more I remember what I played in Campanella 3, I just didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would. I mean, it's a game that you kind of play for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and then you put it down. If you really are into games like Space Harrier, but even games like Space Harrier have a little bit more freedom of movement, there's some power-ups in there, and this game just didn't really hit for me, man. And I was really excited to play another game in the Campanella series. It feels like the Mario of this entire franchise, like this fake game developer. So yeah, I was kind of put off by the presentation of Campanella 3, so really was not too excited to play more of this game. So I put it down pretty quickly and kind of moved on to the next game, which I'm going to talk about right now. And the 50th game in UFO 50 is Cyber Owls, a much better game than I expected. And actually, this is a nice and fitting end to the entirety of all of the games in this entire series, because it is a collection of different mini games therein with all of Cyber Owls. So essentially, you are controlling 4 different characters that are going on 4 separate missions to kind of take down this evil organization trying to find a nuclear warhead. And so I'm going to break down each of the different mini games or the different missions therein. So you have this character by the name of Engel, which is basically a side-scrolling third-person shooter type of game, kind of like Wild Guns. If you remember Wild Guns from way back in the day in the arcade, where you are essentially doing like a side-scrolling and you're shooting forward, and you can aim with the reticle, and then you can also dodge attacks, and you can also do pickups. You're basically defending yourself from a wave of enemies, and they are shooting at you, and you're shooting at them. You're dodging their attacks. You're just trying to get away from where their bullets are, and just not trying to roll into them, even though it's really easy to roll into all those attacks if you're just dodging and dodging. But you hold the shoot down, and then you aim the reticle, you take them down, and then eventually you get through all the waves, and then you get to a boss. So what's interesting about these games in general is that the missions themselves aren't that long, because there are 4 different types of mini games therein. So yeah, Engel's mission isn't that terribly hard. It was just easier to run into bullets if you're just not dodging the right way, and then you take down enemies, you take down the bosses, and that's pretty much it. And then you go on to Huxley, which is kind of like Seaside Drive, where you are on 3 different tracks and you're shooting forward. So you're just shooting forward, you're not shooting up, but you also have the ability to jump as well. And there are a number of different waves of enemies that are coming at you on all these 3 tracks, be it cars or trucks or people running on the street. I don't really know what that's about, but you can jump over them as they're exploding. What makes this game a lot harder is that as the enemies explode, they will leave a trail of fire, and that will affect your life as well. So you have to be aware of that. And I was curious as to why I was dying so quickly, and I realized I was running into the enemies after I shoot them and after they get taken down. So there is actual contact damage. Because the contact damage was so present within this particular game, I didn't get very far, but it led me to the next game, which is Gwen, which is basically Metal Gear Solid. Take her, and this is a stealth based mission where you're walking around trying to find what you're looking for. You can use tranq darts, you can use a gun, you can use stun grenades, but the core of it is more just sneaking around. It's not all the way like a Metal Gear Solid, but it's more like a stealth based game. So the stealth is more of the gameplay there. You are very, very limited on health. You really only have 2 pips of health the entire time. So that's kind of the crux of everything, and that's why the stealth is more important in this game. So yeah, that's Gwen's mission, and so you're basically just going around stealthing, getting away from all the guards, not trying to get caught in their attacks. And they do the Metal Gear Solid like exclamation point icon when you get caught in that. So that was a really fun one as well. And then Octavio's mission is basically a standard beat 'em up. So his is pretty obvious. It's not as complicated as the other 3. So you have a standard attack, you have a jump attack, you have a crouch attack, but you can also hold the attack to basically do this supercharged eagle based attack. Or I guess he's an owl, so he's like an owl, so you can basically do his type of attacks while you're also platforming. There is a surprising amount of platforming platforming that is present within this one. I just did not expect there to be a lot of platforming. I died a lot. There's also some obstacles you have to get past as well. And did not realize of the platforming, which has made it a lot harder than I thought. I thought it was just going to be like a pretty basic beat 'em up. So it's a beat 'em up, but also a little bit of platforming therein. So what's interesting about all of these games in general, so that's all of the games and their specific mechanics, but the overall mechanics of each game is that you do get 2 lives per character. So you have 1 life bar, they vary, and then the controls vary based on the type of character, but you do get 2 tries basically before you fail the mission. But if you do fail the mission, your character shows up as captured when you go back to the main screen, and you can use one of the other characters to go and rescue them, and that turns into another mini game, which basically puts you on a grid and everybody's miniaturized and you're moving. It's kind of like turn-based, but it's like active turn-based. So as you move, characters move, enemies move, they will run into you, you'll run into them, and you have different attacks and abilities. So there's a little bit of strategy involved with, do I want to take a character on a mission, and if they get captured, do I want to use another character to save that other character? Because if you do fail the captured, that person will also get captured, which makes you lose another character that you can't use for another mission. But I really liked every single mission and every single mini game that was present within the Cyber Owl. I really enjoyed the variety of each mission and each structure of the level. So instant favorite for me. And in a sea of favorites, this was really hard to put down because I wanted to see how far I could get in each mission and if I could actually complete the missions as well. But yeah, fun game overall. So I have officially played every single game from UFO 50, and now the task is at hand where I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite games from each row of UFO 50. I've talked about my favorites from each row. I haven't really talked about the other 2, and I need to choose a favorite from this last row and I think the other row as well. But I will be back in another video talking about all 5 of my favorite games from UFO 50. I'm gonna play them again to kind of see if I can get further on in these games, and also just maybe see if I can find some secrets or anything involved with any of this game. So stay tuned for that, as well as my final tier list of every single game from UFO 50 that I'll try to hit before the year's out. Or if I go into January, it is what it is. You know, got other videos planned for the channel as well, like top 10 videos, but we'll see how it goes. But hopefully they will be out before the end of the year, before we end out 2025. But thank you so much for sticking around for this entire series. If you have, I know the format has changed. I've kind of had to double some, in this case triple up videos on the games that I've been playing, just kind of, you know, kind of wrap up because I have a deadline to meet. Wanted to play all these games within a year, and now I have. So thank you so much for following along in the series. If you want to see all the games that I've played, they will pop up, and if you want to see other videos I'm doing on the channel, that will pop up as well. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Chike, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.